Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, this is a little bit of a different sort of video. We're in a different setup completely, and that's because today we've got a special guest coming on. Her name's Annabel, and I want to tell you how she managed to save £6,000 per year while she was at university. I recently saw an article about a girl on TikTok that went absolutely viral because she was able to save so much money by opting to stay in hotel rooms instead of university accommodation. And in my brain, I was thinking, hang on a second, I know someone that did just that. I wonder if she managed to save as much money as well. And that was Annabel. So we're going to talk to her today to see how much she actually managed to save and exactly the split and where that came from, where them savings actually came from. So this is Annabel, and Annabel actually finished university a few years ago now. So we're a bit behind the times here, but do you just want to start off by just saying where you went to university and what your sort of degree setup was in terms of where you stayed each year?
Yes, so I studied primary education, which involved a lot of placements and things, so it involved a lot of non-contact time. I had lectures 3 times a week, and I went to university in Twickenham, so it was sort of out at London, so expensive basically.
Yeah. In your first year, you stayed at the halls provided by university, so your situation was exactly the same as all the other students, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to talk about, once you left your first year, so your fun freshers year, the conversation I guess started turning to where would everyone live, who would live together?
Yeah.
What happened then for you?
So my flatmates in my first year and I started talking about where we're going to live second and third years. And they were all, well, we were all, including me, adamant we'd be staying in London. We'd be, living together. We'd look for a flat, and we did. We looked at flats, we looked at houses, and it just wasn't happening. It was really hard to find somewhere we liked that was a decent price. And I ended up thinking, is there a way around this? Because I'm not that fussed about living here. I wasn't that into the whole uni life thing, going out all the time and drinking and all that stuff. So I was thinking to myself, where would I be happiest? Probably at home with my family. So I started thinking, what can I do? And then I figured out, hold on a minute, I know travel lodges are quite cheap. How often am I actually going to be at uni? And then I worked it out, and it turns out that staying in a travel lodge was so much more beneficial on the old wallet than paying for a flat in London with my friends. So that's how it came about.
Okay, so you're saying that you lived at home with your parents. Let's just say quickly, how far away, like how did you commute between the two?
So it took 2 hours and 6 minutes to be exact, when there was no delays. So it could have been, sometimes it was awful. Yeah, it took 2 hours, 6 minutes on the train, and that was 2 different trains. So I had to get into London, then I had to get another internal London train to get to uni.
So how many nights were you actually travelling up from where you were living, and how many nights were you actually having to stay in a hotel room? At this point, don't say any numbers. We'll get to that in a minute.
Okay, so I had lectures early on Monday morning. So to minimise having to get up really early Monday to get there for a 9 o'clock lecture, I travelled up to Twickenham on a Sunday evening. So it did impact my weekend slightly, but sometimes I would leave as late as 8 o'clock at night to get there. So yeah, I would get to the travel lodge. I'd stay in travel lodge Sunday night. I'd have lectures all of Monday. I'd stay Monday night, have lectures all of Tuesday, and then I would come back on Tuesday evening. I'd spend Wednesday at home, studying, whatever, probably not. And then Thursday I would commute up and commute down again. And then I would have Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So I stayed in a hotel 2 days a week.
Okay.
And I commuted up Monday and Thursday. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. Okay, a couple more things before we get into the numbers. The first question is, you mentioned that you had placements during this course. Mm-hmm. How did that work with where you were staying and travelling? And the second question that I have is, the fact that you were not living near your course colleagues, did that impact your social life at uni, and like what sort of things would you do to get around that?
Fortunately, we had the option to have our placements pretty much anywhere we wanted. It just needed to be organised. I had to organise it myself because I was venturing away from their catchment. So I had to organise it myself and get it all approved, which is a bit of a faff, but it worked out. So I ended up doing all my placements down in my hometown, and I stayed at my parents'. Fortunately, I was very privileged that they didn't charge me any council tax, food, laundry, electricity, anything like that. They didn't charge me rent.
Got it all.
Yeah, really, really fortunate. So yeah, I was able to save anything that I got. I ended up saving a lot of my student loan, which was good. I was able to get a job on the weekend as well, so that was good. Yeah, so in regards to social life and things, I was not that into going out and things and drinking, so it didn't affect me that much. But if there was something happening and I did want to be there,
Like a birthday or something.
yeah, like a birthday that happened a few times, I would be lucky enough, my friends who lived there, who I was going to live with, but I ended up not living with, they let me stay on their sofa for the night, so I didn't have to pay an extra night in the hotel, because they knew about my situation, they knew I stayed in a hotel, and they did say to me, oh, it's fine, just stay with us, don't pay for a hotel, just stay with us, it's only 2 nights a week. They didn't mind, but I didn't want to take advantage. I did it a couple of weeks, and I gave them money for bills and things, because I was obviously using their shower, their electricity. I ended up just staying in a hotel. I felt too bad. So yeah, I didn't have to miss out on anything. That wasn't a problem, because and I was lucky that I only lived 2 hours away on the train. It wasn't like I couldn't have done this if I
a lot of people do that for daily commutes to work, or did.
Exactly, yeah, and I couldn't have done that if I'd gone to uni somewhere else in the country, obviously. So I was just fortunate. My situation with my placements and with, you know, not being charged rent at home and also the commute, it all worked out.
Yeah.
And I was only there 3 days a week, so it was really beneficial and made sense.
Okay, right, let's do the numbers now. So you've got them written down here just so we don't get confused.
Yeah.
I think the first thing to do is we'll have to estimate this, because obviously house prices change all the time, and as a second, third, fourth year university student, you often rent privately in the town that you're living in. So let's first talk about how much it would have been roughly per month for you to have rented in the town that you were living in at university.
Okay, so I've done a bit of research, and like Katie said, I've had to take a really rough average, because like I said, I didn't live there, so I can't say exactly how much it costs, but it's a roughly in that area, £700 a month for rent
Per
only.
person.
Per person, yeah. So if I'd lived in their situation where there was 3 of them in the house, I think they would have been paying about £700 a month each. Plus bills, plus council tax, plus TV, plus internet.
Everything.
Food, everything, all of that good stuff. And so I worked out, probably per person they were paying about £1,000 a month.
And obviously a lot of students have student loans to help cover that. You, if I'm right, you weren't really entitled to too much student loan.
No, so for example, in my first year of uni, my student loan didn't cover my accommodation costs. So I had to rely on my parents to send me money, to be honest. So if I had lived in this situation where my friends were in second and third
with
years,
about £1,000 per month.
yeah,
for
I
basics.
would have had to get a job or two to be able to afford it. And it's because my parents would have done what they could, obviously, but they were just over the cusp of how much you got, like that significant amount that you got for student loan. They still couldn't afford to fund my life, so
It'd be nice.
Basically, I got what I got for student loan, and then anything else I had to find from somewhere else. So
Okay, so £1,000 a month. If you were paying £1,000 per month, you would have obviously had to pay that throughout the entirety of the 12-month contract.
Yep.
We'll discuss the importance of that in a minute, because obviously you were on placements. But okay, £1,000 a month is what you would have been paying.
Yep.
Now, can you talk about your costs, what you did?
How much I paid?
Yeah.
So I've got here for my train costs. So I was spending around £208 a month, give or take, on train. Now I will say I had a rail card, which allowed me to save 1/3 of my train fare.
That's a 16 to 25 rail
16
card,
to 25
yeah.
rail card. You pay a one-off fee, and it lasts you.
I think it's
3 years that it lasts, and then you have to renew it and you have to pay again. But it's basically for 16 to 25-year-olds, so I fit perfectly in that category. So that was that, £208 a month on average. The hotel, so I stayed in a travel lodge, budget hotel, didn't have any facilities, so it had didn't have a fridge, sorry, it had a kettle, and that was it.
Hopefully it had a bed and a shower.
Yeah, it had a kettle, so you couldn't bring food with you to refrigerate and things, so you just had to find that from elsewhere. But anyway, that was £320 a month for the 2 nights.
Sometimes it was cheaper, right? Because you shopped around?
Yeah,
or...
I shopped around. So there was 2 travel lodges that were close by to my uni within a 10-minute walk. And I just stayed in whichever one was cheapest at that time. And I used to book it sometimes the night before. Sometimes I used to book it on the Saturday night and I used to stay on the Sunday. And it was just sometimes booked in advance. It really depended. I was looking all the time at how to get the cheapest room. It would often be £30 a night. Sometimes it would jump to 40 something. But on average, about £80 a week I was spending. So £320 a month on the hotel. And that all works out to be £528 a month that I was spending.
Okay, so already, without food, without any of that in there, you were already saving a lot of money. They were paying about £1,000. You were paying about £530 ish. Mm-hmm. So that's quite a substantial saving already.
Already 500. Yeah.
So what did you do? We'll go further into that in a minute. But what did you do about food? Because you just mentioned that you didn't have facilities. So did you just not eat whilst you were in the hotel?
So sometimes I would bring food with me from home. Food that didn't have to be refrigerated.
And is that food that you didn't pay for?
I didn't pay for it
Nice.
because it was from my mum's fridge. Sometimes if that wasn't the case, like if it was a day that I'd been in London all day and then I was staying that night as well, so on the Monday night, I would possibly sometimes get some chicken from Nando's or something that was around the corner, or I would go to the uni's cafeteria and I would use their facilities, and it was very cheap, so that was easy. I put on a lot of weight, so don't recommend that. Yeah, and sometimes I would go around my friend's house and they'd make dinner and they'd put a portion out for me. So that was really nice.
So would you say even with your food cost added on, you were still well under the 1,000?
Yeah. Well under.
Okay, so do you just want to now go over the sort of savings that you were seeing across the year and across the 2 years that you were doing this?
Yeah, so I think over 1 year I was saving over £6,000, 6,300, something like that. And I did that for 2 years.
That's impressive.
So 2 years I saved £12,000. Now, this is the turning point. So if I was doing that every single week for 12 months, I would have saved £12,000, but I wasn't, because we had holidays, Christmas, Easter, placements, which took up an awful lot of weeks during my course.
So during the placements, were your friends not actually even using the house that they were paid?
Because they were paying for their rent.
They then found
They found placements close to where they live. Some of them had to use their petrol and drive 40 minutes to get to work, which was a bit annoying for them, but I managed to find placements that were close to my home. I had a car at the time, but it was my parents' car. I was just insured on it. So I took that to work so I could minimise time I was commuting. And it just all worked out perfectly. So that £12,000 that I saved over those 2 years, vastly more, because I was doing placements at home. Therefore, during that time, I wasn't having to pay for hotels or trains. Whereas all my friends who were paying for rent, they were stuck in this 12-month contract. They had to pay rent when they weren't even there. So, and the bills don't go anywhere just because you're not there. So they had all of that as well. So I say 12,000 in the 2 years, but it was, if I'd worked it out properly, it would have been way more.
That's impressive. Okay, I think what we're trying to highlight is that as a university student, you can get creative on different ways that you can budget, different ways that you can save money. Not everyone can do what Annabel did. I couldn't do it because if I lived at home, I would have had to travel 2.5-3 hours each day, and that would have been every single day and back again because I had lectures all day every day. So there's no way that I could do that. But if you can live with your parents, or you've got another way to live, maybe with friends, maybe some hotels like you said, you can probably save quite a bit of money if you just do the maths first. If you can't do that, there may be some other creative ways that you can save money. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I would say when you tell somebody you were staying in hotels for the whole of for those 2 years of uni, they're thinking, are you crazy?
Have you got loads of money?
Yeah. What, are you living the high life? And I'm like, well, 1, it was a budget hotel, and 2, this is how much I've saving doing that, just because I let go of the fact that I wouldn't be with my friends 24/7 and I would miss out on some things. But like I said, me as a person,
it suited you.
It suited me. I wasn't that bothered about that, so it wasn't the end of the world. So if you're in a similar position, I know that these days a lot of learning is virtual. So is it really worth paying for accommodation in your uni town just to attend one lecture a week and do everything else virtually? Is it really worth it? Maybe it's worth it for your social needs. That's fine if that's the case. But if you can save money, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? In my head.
And save it and invest it, guys.
Invest it, yes.
Okay, cool. Do you have anything else to add, or are you?
I don't think so. No, I just wanted to share my story, and obviously you saw that article.
Yeah.
I also saw the TikTok that the girl made, and it just immediately I saw it. I thought, oh, I did that a few years ago. Let me talk about that on Hayley's channel.
Yeah, no, it's good. This channel's all about saving money, investing money, being financially literate and free. So thank you, Annabel, for sharing your story. And yeah, thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll be back in the normal setup very soon.